Hello, this is Michael Stumpf, and this is my 10-minute challenge for data programming essentials with Python for Pittsburgh University's MBA program. For this 10-minute challenge, I wanted to look at reasons why people didn't get a booster in the household pulse survey data. So the Census Bureau started collecting answers to the household pulse survey data back in April of 2020 and has since continued on to evaluate how the pandemic has affected households since it broke out here in the United States. For my purposes, though, since I'll be looking at why people didn't get the booster, those questions and answers only started to appear in week 46 and 47 of the survey timeline. Therefore, I will only be focused on answers from June 1st to July 11th of this year. So I plotted the reasons in a bar chart just to see which reasons were chosen the most out of all 9. Here you can see that the top one was that the respondent didn't think the booster was worth getting. The second highest was that they planned to, but they didn't have enough time. The third was that they already had COVID, so they didn't feel like it was necessary to get it. And the fourth was that they expected side effects. That they experienced side effects from a previous dose. So I'm gonna focus right now on the respondents that didn't think the booster was worth it and see if I can predict that value based on other columns in the data set. So there are 3 categories that we're going to try to predict for the reason why people didn't get a COVID booster is because that they didn't think it was necessary. The 3 categories are negative 88 missing or did not report, negative 99 questions seen but the category wasn't selected, and then 1 um, the actual reason don't believe a COVID-19 booster is necessary. So right off the bat, I jumped into backwards elimination and forward selection with logistic regression to see which columns I could use to help me predict um, the 3 separate categories. However, the backwards elimination couldn't converge, so I didn't get really good results from that, and it was taking really long. So then I jumped to forward selection, and it only added 1 variable, which was the variable that asks if you got the booster. This makes a lot of sense because you have to report no to answer one of the 9 reasons as to why you didn't get a booster in the first place. However, both of these really didn't work for me, so I decided to jump right into using the gradient boosting classifier. So I ran this with my variable being the third reason, and the rest of the columns were my x variables. After running the model, you can see here that I had pretty good accuracy on my training and my testing data. So both training and testing were 95% accuracy, and this was well above the naive prediction, which was 84%. So I was pretty happy with this. Um, After doing the gradient boosting, I looked at the top 10 important variables used in the gradient boosting. So the first one was whether the respondent received the COVID-19 vaccine booster. This actually had a really large importance compared to the rest of the top 10 variables. So as you can see, it's close to 96 and no other variable even came close. This makes a lot of sense since the user answering any of the 9 reasons was dependent on them saying no to uh, them receiving the booster. So the second most important variable in the model was based around a question about why the respondent didn't get their child vaccinated. and them selecting one of the several responses, one of which was that they don't believe the child needed to be vaccinated. This makes a lot of sense. If you don't think your kid needs vaccinated, you probably don't think you need the booster after you got a first or second dose of the vaccine. Third was a question about the coronavirus symptoms at their worst and how bad they were. Fourth was the respondent's current gender identity, and the fifth was based on the person's income, actually the total income of the household. Six was sexual orientation. Seven was what kind of workplace setting do you work or volunteer in outside of the house. Eight was race. Nine was sources of income and funds for spending needs, so how much money do you have for different things. And then 10 was about the respondent trusting the government or not. Um, so I think this is a pretty interesting set of variables. So after looking at the top 10 variables for the gradient boosting algorithm, I wanted to see if I could use those top 10 variables in a KNN model to predict the same y variable. Once I did that, I found that I was pretty successful. I had 94% accuracy with training data, 92% with testing, and then I got 91% after I did the k-fold cross-validation, which is still a lot better than the naive prediction, a little bit less with the gradient boosting. But now that I have this KNN model with the top 10 most important columns, I can now use that on week 47 to see if I can predict all the rows in week 47 on the same y variable, which was that the respondent didn't think that the booster was necessary. So after I ran the KNN model on the week 47 data, I found that I got 92% accuracy, and then I redid a naive prediction since this was week 47, and I got 83% with the naive prediction. So overall, still a very good model. We're able to pretty accurately predict how the user is going to respond to this if they didn't get a booster in both week 46 and week 47 of the pulse survey data. So after looking at the KNN models and evaluating their accuracy, I just wanted to look at the data and see what types of people were responding to not getting a booster by saying that they didn't think it was necessary. So the first thing I charted here was just race of people who actually responded that they didn't think the booster was necessary, so they selected one in the survey. As you can see, a majority of that is white people. And then to kind of break it down even more, I have a pivot table here that combines income along with how the person identifies in terms of gender. So you can see here that uh, females who make around 50,000 to 75,000 a year were the majority of people who responded in this way. Actually, if you look even further, 489 people did not respond to their income, and that was the majority. Also, same for males. The majority of people who did not report their income also said that they didn't think the booster was necessary. So I think some takeaways here is that with some of the other columns, you can predict people's responses to why they didn't get a booster in week 46 and 47 of the pulse survey data. And as we've seen, a lot of those people are white individuals, and the majority of those people also did not report on their income, whether they were male or female. Both genders did that, and the other genders in the selection were very low, very small counts, so it's kind of insignificant. But had there been more time, maybe somebody could try and figure out how to convince these certain types of people that a booster is necessary so that we could get more people boosters if that was the goal here. Um, but yeah, that was my 10-minute project. Thank you for watching.